Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 Travelers Championship Initial Research Show. Hope you had a very successful U.S. Open. I apologize for the um, issues that I had on Wednesday night, for lack of better terminology. I had some microphone issues. I thought I had fixed that, and then proceeded to what I thought was have my show. Uh, Went through everything, price board, my mixed condition model, made the lineups, finalized it, and then once I ended that stream or that show, realized that it didn't broadcast. So I just did an entire show to the ether, essentially. So I apologize for that. I hope you all didn't miss me too much on Wednesday evening. And if you did, I'm going to tell you, you probably didn't miss too much because I didn't get a whole lot right on the U.S. Open. I played a lot of Bryson. He missed the cut. My Mad Scientist play shot about 11 billion, missed the cut. I did have a couple of decent suggestions: full fade of Justin Thomas, full fade of Sepp Straka. I even played a little bit of Rasmus Nergard Peterson. I made sure to mention him in the show, but didn't have the show essentially since it didn't broadcast. So my apologies for that. But we are here now. We're going to move to Cromwell, Connecticut, the traditional host of the Travelers Championship, the final signature event on the PGA Tour schedule. It is a no-cut event, a pure no-cut event. Of course, congratulations to JJ Spawn and his win at the U.S. Open in just miserable conditions today. And then a big final shout out to all the dads out there. So happy Father's Day, especially to my own, which if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I've had some 2 months of just hectic life things going on, specifically around my father. So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Wouldn't be here without them, obviously, and happy to have them. So let's turn our attention forward to TPC River Highlands and the Travelers Championship. Let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytics tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where tomorrow I will place some research regarding past champions of the Travelers Championship, some patterns that they all share, players in the field this week who fit those patterns. If you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contest I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. You would have seen all of the Scotty, all of the Bryson, all of the Xander that I played this week. So it was not a very successful U.S. Open for me. And then the wagers, I had an outside chance at a missed cut parlay, actually. Rory decided to make the birdie on Friday to get himself into the cut. Ruined that. My other parlay was dead from the moment I hit submit. Basically, none of the outrights were fairly close. I did have an outside chance early today and Oakmonted. So, but anyway, if you want to see those pieces of information every week as well, give me a follow over at X. That is my betting cards and top player usage. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. I really can't recommend it enough. Throughout the week, he'll update you with his own version of course history, recent form, the deluxe version, which has projected ownerships, and of course, his social media page is where we post our detailed descriptions of the 2025 Picks Challenge. I had a 3-point lead going into the U.S. Open. I'm pretty sure I've given most of that back with a lot of my selections this week. So we'll see how that stands Wednesday night as well. But make sure you're following Gabe over on his social media page. His handle's in the description. And subscribe to his article. It really is a fantastic way to start your week of preparation. And then lastly, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you. How was your U.S. Open? Did you have J.J. Spawn? Did you play Bobby Mack? Did you play all that? How did you think Oakmont fared? Was it a fair test? Was it too much? All of that. And then moving forward this week to the Travelers. What do you know of TPC River Highlands? Who do you think is your early favorite? So jump into chat. Would love to hear from you. And if you're not able to catch the show live, make sure you put your thoughts and opinions in the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 Travelers Championship. And we're going to start, as we always do, over at the GCSAA tournament fact sheet with a slight caveat that you'll see that this is actually last year's tournament fact sheet. The GCSAA has not released this year's Travelers Championship. With that said, there have not been any changes that I am aware of. The most significant change is that 9 yards have been added to one hole. So this is now a 6,844 yard par 70. This is not an original Pete Dye design, but Pete Dye was brought in to renovate TPC River Highlands, or what became TPC River Highlands, in 1982. So for all intents and purposes, Pete Dye is given credit as the architect, but he's not the original designer of the golf course. So I do want to make that apparent. But we will be looking at some Pete Dye metrics this week, as he is given credit for the architect. He's just not the original designer. TPC River Highlands, as I mentioned, is a traditional par 70. We have 4 par 3s, 2 par 5s, just like Oakmont. But this is a very, very short course, at least by PGA Tour standards. Again, just a little over 6,800 yards. These greens are small, 5,000 square feet on average, and they will play slightly smaller than that. 28 acres of fairway is a little bit misleading because the average fairway width is 30 yards, which is slightly forgiving. It does narrow quite a bit the further out you go in typical Pete Dye fashion. 69 bunkers throughout the course, 5 holes with water in play. We are on Bent and Poa annua, and this is going to be a theme for the next couple of weeks. There are 3 golf courses, or 3 courses on the PGA Tour that have Bent and Poa annua listed on the GCSA tournament fact sheet. Obviously this week at Cromwell, Connecticut, TPC River Highlands. Detroit Golf Club, where we'll be next week or the week after for the 3M. And then lastly, Silverado, which is the host of the Fortinet Championship, the first, what used to be the first event of a new PGA Tour season. Now it's the first event in the FedEx Fall. So those 3 courses are at least what is GCSAA have listed as Bent and Poa annua greens. So we'll be looking at those courses specifically for putting. The fairways are Bent and Poa annua as well. And we have the same mix of grass that we did at Oakmont. This Kentucky bluegrass, and eventually can get to fescue at 4 inches plus. It is a gradual, lengthening. So if you are slightly off the fairway, the rough will not be terribly thick. And then if you are quite wayward, you will be finding fescue and other gnarly stuff. That is really all I have, or at least the GCSAA has, in terms of a tournament fact sheet. It is one of the shortest courses, if not the shortest. Again, this is last year's GCSAA tournament fact sheet. This year's is not out, so I don't want to go too much into this, but very, very short course, small-ish greens. First that I believe this year we've been on Bent and Poa annua. You might consider Oakdale. that as well, which was a host of the RBC Canadian, I believe. But there's the highlights of the Travelers Championship and TPC River Highlands. Pete Dye Design, or Pete Dye Architect. He's not the original designer of the course, but he gets credit for being the architect. Small greens, traditional short par 70. Wide enough fairways. They can get narrow. The more aggressive you get. 5 holes with water in play. We're on bent and Poa annua greens. So with that, we'll move to the field and Fantasy National. Now this field is not finalized, to my knowledge, because the field for TPC River Highlands and the Travelers Championship this week was going to be settled after the U.S. Open. Things like the Aon Next 10, Swing 5, things of that nature. Now, J.J. Spawn was already in the field from his win. So his win at the U.S. Open did not catapult him into the field. He was already in here. The only field change I would be conscious of is that Corey Connors withdrew today, the 4th round of the U.S. Open, with a wrist injury. So be on the lookout for that throughout this week. I do think Corey Connors will probably withdraw if the wrist is injured enough. Just don't mind me, I'm checking my settings to avoid a debacle like I had last Wednesday. So anyway, this is a signature event. So the top players, generally speaking, on the PGA Tour here, Scotty is your defending champion. Rory is committed to the field. Justin Thomas, Sepp Straka, Lowry, Fleetwood, Griffin, who's on the heater. So the creme de la creme of the PGA Tour is here this week in Connecticut. First thing we can do, since we saw on the GCSA tournament fact sheet, I'm going to expand the time frame here. Let's just take a quick look at short course performance. Courses that are less than 7,200 yards. This easily falls into that category, considering this is 6,844 yards on the official scorecard. Now you'll see Carl Phillips only has 4 rounds, but most players have into the 20s. Some even have as many as 50 if you include all of the sample size. So your top performers on short courses going back to the beginning of 2024: Justin Thomas, Scotty, Sepp Straka, Ben Griffin, Keith Mitchell, JT Poston, Patrick Cantlay, Tom Hoagie, Russell Henley, Eric Cole, Austin Eckroat, and Michael Kim are your top 10, or 12 technically, short course performers. In the same vein, let's take a look at Pete Dye very quickly, since he is credited with being this course's architect. We're only going to go back to 2024 just to keep the time frames similar. Your top Pete Dye design performers in the field this week: Scotty, Justin Thomas, Tom Hoagie, Wyndham Clark, Sepp Straka, Rory, Brian Harmon, Xander, Daniel Berger, Siwoo Kim, Akshay Bhatia, and Alex Smalley are your top 12. So with that, let's move to the course breakdown here in Fantasy National. Get a feel for TPC River Highlands in terms of a scorecard and graphical view. The past couple of years, with the Travelers having become a signature event or designated event, it's gotten a tad bit easier. You see, last year, all 4 rounds played easy. The winning score, I believe, was 22. Scotty and Tom Kim in a playoff. The year before that, it was 23 from Keegan as a designated event. So it has gotten easier the past couple of years. Majority of the time in the past, it was rated about average. You had winners in the upper teens, 16, 17, 18. You could even get some difficult rounds if the wind really picked up. But the past couple of years, with the top players on the PGA Tour coming to TPC River Highlands, it has gotten easier. So, with that, you do have a couple of pretty challenging holes. 1700ths over par, long par 4, fourth. Difficult par 4 17th, 1500ths, 1300ths. But par, you see, falls right on the 9th and 10th most difficult holes. So that would signify that it is average. If you go just by par, I'm still believing that it's going to be easy, especially with the best players on the PGA Tour coming here. Your 2 par 5s are your best scoring opportunities. 3/10 of a shot under par. Not necessarily a great eagle chance, but a good birdie opportunity. And in your par 5 on the back 9 plays to 1/4 of a shot under par. Bit more of an eagle chance, but also a lot more bogeys come into play, as I believe this one is protected by water. Those are your 2 best scoring opportunities, but you got decent chances throughout the course. 2/10 of a shot, a drivable par 4 at 296. Drivable par 4. 341 you might think is drivable. It is not. This is a pure layup off the tee, but still plays fairly easy. 800ths, 1100ths. So you've got scoring opportunities throughout TPC River Highlands. You've got some bogeys that can creep in as well. So historically has been right at average. 9th and 10th most difficult being par. I think it's going to be on the easier side, being another signature event. The whatever length in the course, because there's not much. There are 2 par 3s over 200. 223-yard par 3. Par 3 fifth. Plays to 1/10 of a shot over par. And then you have a 202. So 2 pretty long par 3s. The back 9 par 5 is very short. You've got the drivable par 4. A couple of other shorter par 4s. So it is not a long course by any means. We move to strokes gained by shot type. You can see putting and approach. Putting actually outweighing the approach by a little bit for your traditional top 10s. Top 5s, still more the same. Off the tee isn't, off the tee is distancing itself from around the green a little bit there. And then your winners, it is a lot of off the tee. So the further up you go on the leaderboard, the off the tee gets more pronounced in terms of its importance over around the green. There's an emphasis on keeping the ball in play. It's not going to be nearly as penalizing as Oakmont. Obviously, Oakmont's a U.S. Open site. Travelers, TPC River Highlands is not. But TPC River Highlands does punish you more than the average PGA Tour course for not being in the fairway. That is a lot of the defense of this course. And then for your strokes gained by hole by par, even though there are only 2 par 5s, you see just how much they are getting taken advantage of by the top performers year over year. Par 3s are lagging quite substantially for your top 10s. They're lagging quite a bit for your top 5s. And then your winners, I mean, again, I'm surprised, but the par 3s just don't seem to add too much historically here at TPC River Highlands. So it'll be interesting when we go, especially tomorrow night, into the data dive and really dig into that. We move down to hole composition. 2, I will say, short par 3s between 150 and 175. 2 very long par 3s at between 200 and 225. We have 1 drivable and 1 short but forced layup par 4. We have another par 4 from 350 to 4. That is 389, the par 4 ninth. Plays under par. So 3 short par 4s. The majority of your par fours fall 400 to 450. So it'll be interesting tomorrow on the data dive if we see that this range contributes a whole lot in terms of totality on par fours. 2 longer par fours, a couple of the more difficult holes on the course. 481, the most difficult hole on the course, and then 462, the second most difficult hole on the course. And then lastly, for your par fives, 1 under 550, 1 over 550 yards. Approach shot distribution, you can see the majority of approach shots fall between 150 and 175. You actually do get a fair amount of 200 plus approaches here. That's just due to the forced layup on a few of these holes. Even though like these shorter, on some of these shorter par fours, particularly in the 400 to 450 range, I mean, a lot of these are some forced layups where you're going to have a decently long iron in. And of course, the par fives are both getting attacked in two as well. But at least against the PGA Tour average, the majority of approach shots fall between 125 and 175, especially this 150 to 175. So again, tomorrow in the data dive, we'll take a strong look at proximity and see if that really does play a big factor. Historic cut line, we don't have to worry about that this year, nor did we last year since it was a signature event. But just to give you an idea on how easy or difficult TPC River Highlands traditionally has been, you see a cut about -1 most of the time. It did get easy at some points and get to -3. If the wind really picked up and conditions were really bad, it could get to +2. But you can see most of the time it fell to even or -1, which again was about average. It's about an average difficulty over the years. Scoring distribution, quite a few birdies. You do have a couple of doubles, or a few doubles creep in because water protects a few of these holes. But most of the time you're getting scores that are under par than over par, leading to easy. Accuracy, much higher here. Again, forced layups off of a lot of these tees. Forced layups, greens, even though they're small, they're actually fairly easy to hit, or at least easier than the average tour event. Scrambling here is slightly easier than the average tour event, just slightly. So all of this again leads to easier setup, especially for the premier players on the PGA Tour. Now, with this driving accuracy and the forced layup nature, you would expect distance to be quite a bit less, and it is. 3 putts per round, not that common. Proximity to the hole, again, with the small greens. If you're hitting the greens, you're going to be closer to the hole than on average on the PGA Tour. So there's a look at TPC River Highlands from a scorecard and graphical view. We'll go back to the players in the field this week. We're going to take a look at a couple of things here. Let's start with off the tee. I don't want to go easy just yet. Let's go off the tee on short courses. Let's see how that looks for us. So your top off the tee players on short courses. Since the beginning of last year, Keith Mitchell, Austin Eckroat, Daniel Berger, Luke Clanton, Siwoo Kim, Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Johnny Vegas, Patrick Rogers, Corey Connors, if he is in the field, and Cameron Young. Something else that I want to do, and I did this for TPC Sawgrass, I did this a lot for Pete Dye Designs. Let's take a look at Pete Dye off the tee, since he does like to play tricks on your eyesight and your lines and whatnot. Your top off the tee players on Pete Dye Designs past couple of years: Scotty, Austin Eckroat, Brian Harmon, Colin Morikawa, Hideki, Corey Connors. Again, if he's in the field, I have my doubts since he withdrew with a wrist injury today from the U.S. Open. Aaron Rai, Ludwig Aubert, Patrick Hanley, and Sung Jae. We will move to approach. Absolutely not going to ignore this. We'll go last 36 just to get a good baseline here. Top approach players last 36 rounds. Of course, the U.S. Open's not in here yet, having just concluded, a half an hour ago, maybe now 45 minutes ago. Scotty, Shane Lowry, Sepp Straka, Patrick Cantlay, Hovland, Xander, Colin Morikawa, Bud Cauley, Justin Thomas, and Keegan Bradley. And then we're going to look at specific courses here that have Bent and Poa annua. First, we're going to look at Detroit Golf Club, host of the 3M. We're going to look at Silverado, host of the Fortinet. I believe it's this one. And then where we are this week, TPC River Highlands. Not a whole lot of rounds here with only 3 courses, but I don't want to go too far back. Yeah, let's do 2022 just to get enough rounds. Yeah, feel a little bit better. Your top putters at these 3 courses, which again are the ones per the GCSAA, have Bent and Poa annua. Your top putters: Xander, Adam Hadwin, Keegan, Wyndham Clark, Harry Hall, Minwoo Lee, Patrick Cantlay, Ricky Fowler, Denny McCarthy, Mackenzie Hughes, and Sung Jae. We will clear all of that. Let's go. I don't know if proximity is going to be a huge deal, but let's just take a quick look at par 4s. Just nice, easy metric that we know is going to play at least some kind of factor. Again, the most prevalent hole here, or hole length here at TPC River Highlands, is 400, 450. I'm going to sort on all par 4s since we have par 4s of every length except 500 plus. So someone like Scotty really stands out. First, third, 10th. But really, we're probably looking mostly at 400, 450. So Scotty, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, Harry Hall, Aaron Rai, Michael Kim really stand out as being top 10 in total par 4s and the specific length here at TPC River Highlands. Somebody like Spieth really takes advantage of the short par 4s and pretty darn good at the 400 to 450 as well. Bobby Mack maybe 11th and 25th in total. Like Bobby Mack's worst range, 500 plus, there's none of those here at TPC River Highlands. So you can kind of boost him a little bit, really. But yeah. So there's that. Yeah, you know what? I changed my mind. Why don't we do a little bit of proximity just to get a good idea, good feel for it tonight. And if it ends up not mattering, we'll adjust, tomorrow and whatnot. But the majority of your approach shots are 150 to 175, a little bit of 200 plus. We'll sort on the 150 to 175. Your top approach players this calendar year, from 150 to 175 yards: Corey Connors, Ryan Fox, Sepp Straka, Tom Hoge, Andrew Novak, Scotty, Tommy Fleetwood, Daniel Berger, Carl Phillips, and Xander Schauffele. And I should reiterate, top performers in this proximity that is in the field this week at TPC River Highlands. All right, let's go to the tournament history. Strokes gained total tab here in Fantasy National. Get a feel for the players who have played well here over the years and players who have not. Of course, our defending champion is Scotty. T13 in 2022, top 5, and then a win. So he's progressively gotten better the more he has played at TPC River Highlands. Xander has been very consistent. Winner in 2022, 3 other top 20s. Your strokes gained total leader, however, is Patrick Cantlay. 5 top 15s, including 2 top 5s the past 2 years. Brian Harmon's also been very solid here at TPC River Highlands. Missed the cut in 2020, but then has rattled off 4 straight top 10s, including a runner-up and a T5. Some other notables here: Rory, been solid when he does play. Doesn't play here very often or regularly, but has played well when he's been here. Keegan, winner 2 years ago. Pretty Jekyll and Hyde. Has missed the cut a couple times. Win, top 20, middling. Players who haven't played a whole lot but have had some decent amount of success. Justin Thomas, 2 for 3 with 2 top 10s. Finau, 0 for 2 early, and then last 3 years has been much better. Mackenzie Hughes, 4 for 4 technically with a withdrawal, but did have a top 5 back in 2020. Henley's been fairly solid here. Minwoo Lee, 1 performance, but it was a T10. Harris English is a former winner here. Batia, top 5 in 1 chance. So there's a look at some of the players who have consistently played well or had, a couple of spike performances. The other end of the spectrum, players who have not played well around TPC River Highlands. Look at your top name there in terms of negative. Your U.S. Open champion, J.J. Spawn, has not been good around TPC River Highlands. And you'd have to imagine coming off the extreme high of a U.S. Open, you can envision a letdown. Ben Griffin, again, last year was a no-cut event, so 67th is close to probably last, would be my guess. It's not what I meant to do, but we'll go there anyway. Travelers. 70th. Peter Malnati was your lowest. So Ben Griffin was almost last year. So he's been very poor. Spieth, being a former champion here way back in 2015, has not had a lot of recent success here. Nick Dunlap, again, only 70 players in the field last year. He was 66th. Michael Kim, 1 for 3. Max Homa, 1 for 4. Despite the fact that Max Homa has always played well around Silverado, that's also California. So it's not necessarily the Benton Poa Annua that has been carrying him, considering this shares the same green surface type. So Max Homa has really struggled here. Dietrich, 1 for 2, and really this would have been pretty close to a miscut, being 55th out of 70. Davis Riley, has not missed a cut, but very, very poor in terms of finishes. Bezadenhout, 1 for 3. Echeverria, 2 for 3. Not a whole lot to be excited about there. Hadwin. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's Jaeger. My apologies. Jaeger, 2 for 3, but not a lot to be excited about. Nico Echeverria, 0 for 1. Siwoo Kim, 1 for 4, 2 for 5. Not great. Davis Thompson, 0 for 2. So there's a look at some of the players who have and have not played TPC River Highlands well the past few years. That's really all I have in terms of an initial research show. Again, I get more into the data for the Data Dive show, and that's on Mondays. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we could look at just to get an idea. We might want to take a look at maybe fairways, since this course is pretty punishing for you not being in the fairway. So fairways gained, let's just go ahead and do the Pete Dye filter. Why not? And we'll expand the time frame here. So your top fairways gained players on Pete Dye Designs the past year and a half: Scotty, Colin Morikawa, Aaron Rai, Tommy Fleetwood, Lucas Glover, Sepp Straka, Matt Fitzpatrick, Daniel Berger, Austin Eckroat, and Sung Jae. But I'll bring us back to the strokes gained page view. And it's just sorted on Pete Dye, since he is the credit for the architect here. That's really all I have for you in terms of a initial research show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in watching, listening, supporting the channel, by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician's view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. I hope your U.S. Open was much more successful than mine. Mine was not a complete disaster, but it was pretty bad. I was pretty well out of it by Friday, with the exception of maybe an outside chance at an outright here and there. And then be on the lookout for the research tomorrow that I'll be posting over to social media regarding patterns of previous winners of the Travelers, players in the field who fit those patterns, some course info, things of that nature. So thanks again for all the support. For all of the wagers you made this past week for the U.S. Open, for all the DFS contests you played this past week at the U.S. Open, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable. Happy Father's Day, everybody.